YouTube, it's Tone back with another one for you. And so this one here is the second video of the nature of a remedy. Really good book. So the last slide that we did was what do we make reference to there? We're talking about the judicial system, right? And the education, the 4th of July. 4th of July. Is that a lie? So, I mean, you're getting all this information from fake ass Jews at that. You know what I mean? So how valid do you really think it's all really gonna be? Come on. So, let's get into this shit here. So what we're gonna talk about is the correlation between the monetary value of the bonds that are created and the criminal cases, which are really civil in nature. They're just dressed up as some other shit to try to hide the nature. And so let's get into this. So I'm gonna show you how all of this shit ties in. So right here, the federal tax forms provide a tool for remedy. The federal tax form always suggested for use for extortion of funds from individual is the 1040 form. And it's true. I mean, if you do your 1040 easy, they're gonna fucking rob you. You gotta do the long form. And the way that I file, the way that I would file it would be as like a corporation and write everything off accordingly, because the all caps name and USC 26 definition of person is an individual, it is a corporation. So I would file accordingly. Why would you be paying? You know what I mean? So anyway, even though upon examination of the Office of Management and Budget, I congressionally mandate listings of what this form is to be used for, show absolutely no applicability to the subject of individual income tax. It is totally purposeless to protest any aspect of surrealistic income tax scam. The form totally supports your tax position you will be asserting. An example, federal tax form 1045 for all caps, John Q. Doe. All capital letters designates a legal fiction or trust entity. That's what it is. Okay. So because it's not proper English grammar, so you know that it means something else. Okay. So is provided. Notice that the perjury statement states that you have examined the return and accompanying schedules and statements that you make, and to the best of your knowledge and belief, it is true and correct and complete. This will work for you in your favor, as we shall see, and protect you. I call your attention to line 21. So this is making reference to the actual 1040 form, where on line 21 it's going to make reference to this apparently. So it's just basically saying that basically once they create the criminal case, the case number is going to be case number CR whatever. That's going to immediately at that point is creating a bond. Okay. And so every time they get you to go back into court is another bond. That's why you'll probably see them try to get you to go back in there up to 10 different times. And then every time that you go in there, they can monetize that up to 10 different times. So you're gonna see why they want to drag you into court 1,000 fucking times to deal with something that could have been settled literally on the first day or through the mail. You know what I'm saying? It's because they're getting money on all these bonds, which are created in your name for your benefit, which means that upon completion or the maturity of these bonds, you are supposed to be getting a return because it was all done in your benefit, wasn't it? So, which it would have to be, because they are administrators of the public trust, and why would they do something to enrich themselves with your money, with your private credit? That would be stealing. So since this bond was just issued using your identity as the commercial entity backing the bond, even though the appearance bonds may have only been posted at arraignment, it is never actually exercised. This changes nothing in the nature of the bond itself. What is necessary to understand is that the bond is issued or posted and obtains its value, its commercial energy, from the credit commercial energy of the actual living soul and the principal creditor that is being involved or compelled to appear. So basically, they're creating the bonds and the charges and everything in your name because your name's on it. So they're literally stealing your identity to create that gift, essentially, and then they're going to try to switch the positions while you're in court to make themselves the beneficiaries when they're really the administrators and or trustees of the public trust. Now that's a breach of trust right there, I would say, at minimum. So maladministration, we can go on and on. So one may think that the appearance bond is a worthless document if not exercised to obtain release until trial, but in fact it is a commercial instrument having commercial value. Remember, all crime is commercial, equal to the assigned amount. And they're not going to tell you what the assigned amount to each charge actually is, but you can find out what it is because it does have one. Because it does have one. And you know that because they're public entities literally operating as corporations. What else would they be operating? And the shit is all commercial. And shit is all commercial. So the prison penal bonds. So penal, just in general, just so you know, is commercial. Okay, that shit is all copywritten, private shit right there. So in fact, there also exist other bonds issued in a case, which are so-called penal bonds, consisting of a series of 3 or 6 bonds, all having OMB numbers. It is these bonds, not shown in example, which are all created behind your back without your knowledge or permission, yet receive their commercial energy from the living soul of the sovereign. It is our understanding that these bonds are valued at $2 million per count, which the count is the number of counts in the true bill or the indictment and or the counts of conviction. The first 3 bonds of the bid bond, SF-24 bond, so that will be a standard form 24, performance bond standard form 25, and the payment bond standard form 25A. The next 3 bonds with the same OMB numbers are the Miller Acts bonds. So these are going to be standard form 273, 274, 275, which may or not apply to a state case or opposed to a federal case. Each bond issued would constitute the so-called roll of the total sum of the penal bonds, could be 3 or 6 times the 2 million counts. So they're going to go ahead and multiply that as well, because understand that when you create an instrument like that, you can monetize that one instrument up to 10 different times for every one tangible deposit that you have. And so they're probably going to go, if I would imagine, they're going to create these behind your back. They're going to go down to the bank and they're going to have their the TTL department go ahead and count that as a withheld federal tax on their behalf, because they're playing your fucking role now. So they're going to act like the beneficiaries, and they're going to get the fucking Fedwire for whatever the fuck the value of these charges are. Okay, and then they're gonna throw you in fucking jail after they got paid. You know what I'm saying? So all these bonds are 1099 OID eligible issues. If you are also listing these 1099 eligible issues, the amounts become quite large, and the numbers showing up on line 21 and 64 of the federal tax form 1040 would be considerably larger. For simplicity of example, they are not included, only the appearance bond, but can most certainly be included also. The description of these bonds would all be OMB numbers, bond case for the criminal case number, my state versus whoever your name is, the all caps you. So, you know, so the point of you being able to get this back is because it was ultimately you know, it was supposed to be created for your benefit, which I mean it kind of is, because I'm pretty sure you learned a valuable lesson out of all that, didn't you? I mean, I fucking sure did. I fucking sure did. So, you know, but you can get it back because it was made in your name, and ultimately everything has to go back to source, which is you. So it's created on your behalf for your benefit. So you are the original issuer. Essentially, they acted as your trustee, drawing from your estate to create the charge or whatever it may have been, right? But ultimately, it was made on your behalf for your benefit. So at the end or the maturity of these bonds or instruments, that credit is due back source, and that would be you. That would be you. And so after we get done with this slide here, the next video, we're going to get into the tax forms and what they look like and how to fill them out and shit. So in addition to these case-related bonds, one can also include such eligible issues as traffic tickets, commercial bills. And I mean, trust me, do that with all this shit, because I send everything in there. I mean, these courts, whoever's got my name in this shit, they're probably going to have some shit to fucking answer to, you know what I'm saying? Because really, I mean, you're putting it all back into your trust, and when the Treasury Department comes to collect, because we're closing these accounts, bro, they're going to come fucking look through all your shit. They're going to come look through all your shit. So, yeah, so send it all in there so they can all get audited for all these, for all the fuckery fraud, you know what I'm saying? And I mean, that's all that I do. Every time I get some shit, all right, cool, I'll take it. And I try to make sure the bill is as high as possible, because you're going to pay that back times 10. So I want to make sure that you cannot afford that. So commercial bills of any sort, tax bills, commercial judgments, in fact, any and all commercial presentments, whether issued to you, by you. And so that's the issued to you or by you. And the funny thing is that really all these charges are from you, for you, when you look at what it is, because these people are just representing essentially what's supposed to be representing you. So, like, you know, when you look at what it is, remember all the products of this economic system are prepaid by virtue of public policy and public law 73-10, arising out of the necessity of their no longer existing constitutionally authorized money to pay at law with. Once they took away our gold and silver backing of the currency, that is mandated by our organic constitution in Article 1, Section 10, making it impossible to pay at law for anything, the party or the government, which is the mind control operation that sees the gold must under public policy pay all the bills for us. It is our very inability to pay at law as a result of the executive order seizing the gold in 1933 that gives us the ability and authority to demand that the item be treated as prepaid. As hard as this might be to accept because of your thorough brainwashing by the global economic prison you have lived in your entire life, public policy mandated by 7310 HCR 192 is an irrefutable fact of life, and many thousands of people have known of this reality all along, but kept the truth hidden from you. And I think that this is going to be one of the hardest things for people to realize, is that probably the people that you know and probably hold really dear, you're going to see that they knew about this shit the whole time, and they watched you fucking struggle. You know what I'm saying? And they fucking manipulated you with money that they were able to get for free, and then just, you know, make you do certain things, you know, act out of character and do things that you probably wouldn't necessarily have done if you would have knew about this, right? But they knew, and they kept it from you, and they manipulated you, and they fucking abused you, right? So it isn't just about the information, okay? It's about what they did with it. They weaponized it. So the 1099 OID tax is an eligible issues back to source, and that's going to be you, okay? All these eligible issues can be indeed processed via a 1099 OID filing in order to tax the issue back to the source, ultimately you, for settlement and closing of escrow in exchange without money. Treasury direct social security number. The 1099 OID essentially allows the issuing party to volunteer the issue to be taxed. The issuer previously, in fact, delinquent, deferred taxes that had appearance of being abandoned property, and that you never made any claim upon them. But how the fuck could you have if they never told you about them? So essentially what they would do is after the 3 years, it ends up abandoned property, and they can go ahead and claim it, even though it's fraudulent, because they know what all the account information is, because they're the ones who fucking made it. So they're going to be able to go ahead and claim that abandoned credit after the 3 years. So, but you can get that back at any point, even if they pulled some fraudulent nonsense. So as soon as you figure it out, you can get that back and look at the bill for that. So upon identifying the eligible issues, we force these funds to be set aside in essentially a demand deposit account as a federal withholding for recovery as a refund on the 1040 form at line 64. And so that'll be claimed back as a federal withheld tax, because that's exactly what it is. So the 1040 establishes the title to the eligible issue. The 1040 form simply identifies title to the 1099 OID eligible issues at both being income to you and as federal withholding. So the commercial instruments presentments can only obtain commercial energy or value from you, so you are the source and the principal creditor. However, oh fuck. Okay. So, since you never received the actual spendable funds when they billed you, they failed to enclose a check to pay with a dishonor. In fact, the amount in question is all in withholding status at the time or filing the 1040. The 1099 OIDs filed earlier affected a federal withholding on the funds that you were being privately withheld. Reality, a delinquent deferred tax contraband kept hidden from you unless you learn of its existence and tax it back. So you just got to basically tax them back, is what it is. Because you're fucking exempt from levy, just in general, which means that you should have never did time, you should have never went to jail. These people should have known that, and I mean they do know that. Being the fucking administrators, what else do they do? You know what I mean? It's all just fucking accounting. So a few other line items on the line 1040 need to be clarified, since I have nothing to. And I mean they make a lot of fucking money doing this, so I mean I get it. I get it, but you don't have to fucking do that. Like, banking in general, you can make so much fucking money out of nothing. There's no fucking reason for you to be a fucking grimy piece of shit, greedy motherfucker, bro. There is no reason. So since I had nothing to gain by claiming any exemptions, actually only a partial exemption at that, simply do not bother to put down zero. It really does not matter. So this is just going through all different ways that they do it. So here's the bottom. It says the IRS has absolutely no legal authority to assess the tax, even though they will try to bluff you. The form line 44 does not in any way preclude you from entering a zero, even if they attempted to force you to access a non-zero amount. You could simply 1099 OID the amount. Yeah, so it's pretty much saying that if you were to get taxed at any point for your return and things like that, I mean, you could discharge it just as easily as they create the bill. Because when you understand what money actually is, it's not that they ever actually send you a bill. Whenever you get a bill, it's actually a gift. So when you understand trust law, you can just go ahead and take that and deposit it back into your trust. So you don't got to worry about that. So filing the 1099 OIDs, the example shows a 1099 OID, the accompanying 1096 that must go with it. The two sample enclosed letters show that the correspondent sends to the prosecutor asking him to file the 1099. It is also recommended that the clerk of court, all assistant prosecutors in your case, the judge also be added to the parties contacted, since the people contacted all will refuse to file the 1099's OID, usually, even though it requires of them that they will all be in dishonor or become such eligible to appear in the report as the recipient of the payer. So basically, they're going to end up being the freaking borrower, and then you can put them in a position to have to pay back times whatever you say it is. So the head prosecutor, as far as we're concerned, was the payer, who in actuality was the pay from your account. So without your knowledge or consent, which translates to stealing your exemption. So in a sense, you yourself were the hidden payer. So you paid for your own fucking. The prosecutor acting as your agent without knowledge. Normally, the filler of the 1096 is the same party as the payer, but the fraud perpetuated upon you caused you to have to be the filer or the filler out of necessity, because that was the only spot left, because you never filled out any of your tax forms. So you ended up a delinquent and you went to jail. So every party who dishonors your request in your first letter has become a holder in due course of the federal tax liability, and hence should be listed as such in the recipient box by stating holder in due course. So who wants to get hot, caught holding the fucking hot potato? Nobody wants to smoke, I'm telling you. They only get crazy because nobody's bringing them to smoke. That's the only reason why. And it's so fucking easy. So fucking easy. So date of dishonor is the date of the first letter. There can be multiple recipients to the same eligible issue. And that's because they all took part in it. And, however many names was on your indictment, your tax, your court paperwork and things like that, however many names are on that, I would send them all separate 1099s too as well, and cancel that shit just ASAP and make them pay for it on top of that for fucking trying to be slick. So in those cases where you issue as the payer of international bill of exchange or an international promissory note, the preferred instrument to use in the conformance convention to say a clerk of court for a fine of court, or the cost of the recipient would be the clerk of the court and the payer is you instead of the agent of you or a so-called public servant. Any and everything issued that receives this commercial value from you via your exemption has its source, which is you. And it's true, every paper that you see with your name on it, you have to fucking assume that these people are stealing your credit and stealing your identity to create an instrument, because as soon as they present you with something that is an instrument, that's a security, and they're trying to get you to back it by making you think that you have to. But really what's happening is that they stole your fucking identity to create an instrument and they want you to sign it. But it's really your fucking credit that they're holding in their hand. So did you authorize them to even draw that? You know what I mean? So it's things like that. So in conclusion, the paper is a highly condensed, out of necessity explanation of what you can do, who you really are, and if you are operating with this described procedure, you are in complete conformance to the letter and the intent of the law. The system may choose to attempt to intimidate you into not laying claim as to what is rightfully yours. Do you understand it well enough to be the belligerent claimant? I wouldn't even be belligerent, okay? So all communication between me and any of these agents are going to be in the form of a signed affidavit under the penalty of perjury. There will be no me walking into your place of business and speaking to you because you're fucking snakes, okay? So I'm not even going to speak to you. So whatever you really have to say, or whatever these people would have to say, they're going to have to stand on that with their freedom and however much money that they're willing to put on the line. It isn't going to be us having a conversation. Put that shit on paper and sign it. So Satan's system does not want you to assert yourself. They will try to intimidate you. Oh, and always use a notary so you have your witness. Always go through a notary and watch them just silently acquiesce every single time. They will try to intimidate you into silence and acquiescence of the docile economic slave that you currently are. All it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. To quote Teddy Roosevelt, one of the greatest shortcomings in contemporary society is the inability of man to distinguish between right and wrong, between good and evil, and as well as the lack of spirit to fight against any injustice. Fundamentally, peace is our humanity, which I have to agree, must be backed up by the spirit to challenge what is wrong. And there's a big difference between peaceful and harmless. You know what I'm saying? So you guys should look up the definitions of that. So a peace that acquiesces to rampant inequity represents the bleak stillness of a spiritual graveyard. Shutting one's eye to injustice is not tolerance. It is little more than cowardice and apathy. And I have to agree. So it is to those who agree with this, the paper is dedicated to and addressed to. And I'm gonna have to go ahead and second that movement. But I do think a lot of you motherfuckers are pussies, bro. To just say what the fuck it is. A lot of fucking cowards. Straight up. So for that reason, I don't feel like a lot of you even have a fucking room to speak or have a fucking opinion. So a lot of you just should have shut the fuck up too. So afterthoughts, it was not made clear in the previous discussion how and why this procedure affects the release of individuals. The corpus body is being warehoused by a prison system as surety collateral for the commercial instruments generated by the pretend courts discussed earlier. The criminal RICO, so that's the racketeering and all that shit, which is exactly what the fuck that this is. And I even sent them a letter fucking breaking it down for them too in case they didn't know. I sent them a fucking letter letting them know that I fucking know what it is. And that if you bring me into your court, don't think we're talking about what you want to talk about, bro. We're going to be talking about your racketeering nonsense, bro. That's all that we're going to be speaking about. So that's not the conversation you want to have? Go ahead and fucking pick somebody else to fuck with. The criminal RICO enterprises uses your exemption to provide the commercial entity to give it value. When these commercial instruments, eligible issues, are taxed back to source by the sovereign, who is in fact the ultimate source, the accused now has successfully closed escrow on the Treasury direct account for Social Security, so no surety can now be maintained on the instrument. Also, which is why you'd be able to get out of jail as well. You know what I'm saying? As soon as you go ahead and close these fucking accounts, they can no longer hold you because these accounts are not closed. So literally, they're holding everybody in jail because they're not doing their fucking bookkeeping. That's literally what it is, which also means you can get out whoever you want. You know what I'm saying? So I might even get some guys out to just come holler at these motherfuckers real quick. So also, since the escrow is closed, the means of stealing from one's exemption is closed off. One needs to open escrow to scam the account, which means that they have to create the instrument and shit like that, right? So therefore, they can no longer, and so basically what they're doing is creating a lien, a fucking account, a liability, and an asset, all at the same time. So therefore, they can no longer pay for your warehousing expenses, and the deferred taxes must be set aside for withholding. And if they cannot produce the funds, someone in the system will have to become the scapegoat and go to prison, effectively replacing you. So they would have to switch places with you if they were not able to come up with that money. So also, which I'm sure that they cannot. So also what they would probably do is just do a fake death and go fucking create another character or some shit. You know what I mean? Because anyway. So also, as some have correctly guessed, this method can be used to eliminate mortgages, car loans, credit card balances. Since they are all commercial contracts, are all totally fraudulent. The so-called lender never lent you any money. They have nothing at risk. They simply stole funds from the alleged loan from your exemption and tricked you into paying back what they never lent you. This is the ultimate scam indeed. The subject is, however, beyond the scope of this paper. And you know that I know that this shit is a fact because this is what the fuck that I do. You know what I'm saying? I discharge shit all the time. And if, you know, to be honest with you, if I didn't firsthand see this shit work, I probably wouldn't believe it either. So I'm not even mad at the fact that a lot of these people don't fucking believe it. But what I am mad about, or what I don't like, is the fact that you have a fucking opinion when you don't know either way if it does or doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? So for that reason, you should shut the fuck up too. So anyway, it is a game of chess. Wait till we get into the next video. You're gonna see all the forms, the paperwork, and how to fill them out and send that off. You know what I'm saying? So this will work for people in jail, you know, mortgages, car loans, all that shit too as well, I would imagine, right? Because it's a similar process to what I use. There is no one way to do any of this. So you already know what it is. It is a game of chess. Stop playing checkers with these clowns. That's what I got for you for now. Until we meet again.